Okay, so I had my first real major issue on my bike. Just over 400 miles, got back from a ride up at Bundy Hill. And I noticed my rear diff was leaking. Turns out I blew an axle seal on this side right here. Not a horrible leak, but it was actually leaking pretty good. I think I got some sand up in there or whatever. Not the worst job in the world, it's pretty easy, but the trailing arm does have to come off, which sucks. Just pull the sway bar end link bolt out, the shock bolt out, and obviously you got to take your axle nut off. Unfortunately, it doesn't drop enough to where you can get the axle out with the trailing arm in, so you do have to take the big nut that goes here off and kind of, luckily mine wasn't seized up or anything. I pounded the bolt that holds the trailing arm in out easily, just enough to where I could wiggle this out, slide the axle out. There's a C-clip that holds the axle in, so you just give it a nice jerk and it'll pop right out. And I took like some wood screws, screwed it in there into the old seal, and used a claw hammer, just boom, pop it right out. So that was all pretty easy, but just annoying that you have to pull the whole trailing arm, and you don't have to pull the bolt all the way out. I just left it hanging in there like that. So this other side, all I did was take the wheel off, so nothing too bad there. But that one big nut is on there pretty good. I had to use a big 1/2-inch ratchet with a cheater bar. So that wasn't super fun, but it came off. No big issues. The oil in the diff was actually really sludgy, so I'm pretty glad I got to change it now while I'm doing this seal. So I'll be servicing that as well. So I wanted to make this real quick, just in case anybody else has the same issues. I ordered some, I think there ended up being aftermarket axle seals for this rear diff from, I think, Can-Am Parts Guy. And the overall nominal dimensions are the same. I think it's a 30mm ID, 52 OD, and like 8mm thick, which compared to the old seal compares perfectly. Like it's supposed to be a direct replacement. But if you actually mic the OD of these aftermarket seals, they're like, I don't know, like I want to say like 50 thou smaller, just enough so that there's a little less interference, and these seals didn't push in. This one at least didn't push in so great. So I ended up pulling it back out and RTVing it just to make sure, because I had just a tiny little bit of oil seeping, and I think it was coming from around the seal, so I pushed it back in with some RTV, so that should fix it. And I cleaned the shaft surface up really well with a 3M etching cloth. And there's still a little crud. I think some sand or something got in the dirt lip of the seal and mixed with some water, but I didn't really feel like paying $200 for some new shafts, even though I'll probably eventually go that route eventually, but didn't want to do that just yet. And then another tip for throwing the control arm in, these little like bushing deals, washers, pop out very easily. They just pop out just like that. So you want to be really careful when you're trying to stick it up in there. You can see the one flange up in between like the two brackets, that they don't fall out, because I had that happen to me a couple times on the other side and this side. They just wanted to fall out, so you're going to want to make sure you don't lose those. And as far as the axle install goes, it should be pretty simple. I got just some random gear oil I'm going to use to kind of lube the seal up. And put a little on the shaft. Then it should, hopefully I can get this with one hand, just pop right in. There it goes. Okay. So just a little, you don't need to beat on it with a hammer or anything. You can see the C-clips are a little tough sometimes to push in, but I got that one in just with one hand. Yeah, so definitely don't just go beating on it with a hammer, because that's how you'll blow the C-clip out. And then I just have some grease I picked up a long time ago. Just some red like wheel bearing grease that I like to hit the splines in this shaft out here that rides on the outer wheel bearings, so you don't get any fretting, and just to try and preserve those a little bit. These wheel bearings didn't sound too great, but I decided to just try and clean them out and hit them with some penetrating oil, and they seem to be free enough, so we're just gonna send it.